Hi everyone, hot off the press. I'm recording this on the 24th of February. We have the new government advice, COVID-19, people with COVID-19 and their contacts. Now this is the guidance which is intended to replace the statutory requirements on individuals to self-isolate if they contract COVID-19. And it's exactly as we suspected. So from an employment law perspective, the concern is that when the legal requirement to self-isolate goes, what we are left with is non-binding, non-statutory advice that consistently refers to employees who should do certain things in the event of contracting COVID. As we explored in a previous video, that creates quite the headache for employers because it essentially means that we cannot insist on an employee self-isolating if they contract COVID where they remain ready and willing to work, and that does give us a conundrum in terms of what we do with employees. Do we allow them to remain in work and increase the risk of transmission across colleagues? Do we try and isolate them in the workplace? Do we try and get them to work from home? Or do we essentially medically suspend, so keep them out of action on full pay for a self-isolation period? But I will just review the guidance because essentially if we do have a positive case in the workplace, we should be advising employees to go and read this guidance and recommend that they make a positive, conscious decision to self-isolate if they need to do so. So the guidance says there is no longer a legal requirement to self-isolate. However, if you have any of the main symptoms of COVID-19 or a positive test result, so this picks up asymptomatic individuals as well, although testing will no longer be free from the 1st of April, so I'm not quite sure how that will be picked up. The public health advice is to stay at home and avoid contact with other people. So the advice remains that if an individual has any symptoms of COVID-19, they should order a PCR test, they should stay at home and avoid contact with other people while awaiting the test result. The most effective way to avoid passing on COVID-19 infection is to stay at home and avoid contact with other people. Again, all guidance so far. So the suggestion is that for up to 10 days an employee should self-isolate. So we had the previous position whereby lateral flow tests could be taken 24 hours apart on day 5 and day 6. That is still recommended. If either of those tests are positive, the recommendation is that an employee continues to self-isolate until the earlier of 2 negative tests or 10 days have passed. So if an individual has COVID-19, the guidance now is that an employee should not attend work. If they're unable to work from home, they should talk to their employer about options available to them. And it says you may be eligible for statutory sick pay. Now, my understanding is that an employee is eligible for statutory sick pay if they're incapacitated. So if the extent of the COVID-19 infection is that they are not able to work because they are unwell, they would be entitled to SSP. I don't believe, unless any further guidance is published or any legislation is published, that simply self-isolating voluntarily will attract even statutory sick pay, which, as we know, will be a huge deterrent to staying away from work for somebody who is infected. So, assuming that an individual does stay home, they can go through the testing on day 5 and 6 as recommended and potentially return to work. The guidance does say that we understand that it is not always possible to stay at home and avoid contact with other people, but you should follow the guidance as closely as possible. I interpret that as an admission that the government understands not everyone will be in a financial position to self-isolate and will want to come to work if they are physically able to do so. So the guidance says that if people do need to leave home while they are still infectious, they should take certain measures, wear a well-fitting face covering, avoid close contact, avoid crowded places, avoid large social gatherings, and be especially careful with hand and respiratory hygiene. So I think if we are allowing employees into work after having been infected and we have to have them in the workplace, again, we should be reminding them of this guidance as well as implementing anything that we've specifically risk assessed. So it might be enhanced PPE, it might be isolation in the workplace, something of that nature. The guidance also talks through close contacts. So if you live in the same household as somebody who has had a positive test and you have not, you are still advised to work from home if you are able to do so. And the advice is to follow that So work from home for 10 days after the person you lived or stayed with had their symptoms beginning. So from day 10 onwards after the symptoms started, or the day the test was taken if they did not have symptoms. So again, very restrictive advice, and in a lot of ways it does follow the legal requirements before. As we say, the huge issue here is that this is only guidance. There is a problem for many employers trying to weigh up the need to protect their employees and protect the transmission risk in the workplace versus the commercial reality of the situation. The financial reality for many employees will be, if I am well enough to come to work, I'm going to have to do so because I can't afford to be on either SSP or no pay whatsoever. So if you do need further advice about workplace measures once living with COVID is fully in force, please do get in touch. Email employmenthub@chadlaw.co.uk or visit our website chadwicklawrence.co.uk for more information. Thank you.